to get your boon? Well, you ain't take nobody in. Besides, you want to take me in? You'll have to shoot me in the back.
Oh, I never shot a man in the back before. I have in the leg.
I heard a bunch of shooting, Bone. What's going on?
Oh, my gun's all jammed up here, Deputy. That's Prescott Webb that gets your pistol on.
You hold it right there, boy. I'm the law and you ain't got no chance.
I got the devil on my side, boy.
Huh. You actually managed to hit him. You got all bouncing around there. What'd you shoot him again for?
He was suffering.
You shoot horses when they're suffering, not people.
Oh, well, I didn't like him anyway.
Oh, get down there and clean up your mess.
Okay.
Get him down to the dock. I'll tell these folks the rest of the story. Now, not too long after the shooting stopped, Owens and McConnor got themselves arrested at the stables over on Sherman Street. They took Prescott down to Doc Babcock, Apache not good enough to travel. They took all three of them down to Cheyenne for trial. They found all three of them not guilty due to a lack of evidence. You can believe it? Yeah, I did hear them boys cleaned up their ways. And one even got a job working for that very same stage line he helped rob. And that's the way things really were back in Deadwood in 1877 when old Prescott Webb and the boys came to town. Thanks for being here, folks, and have yourselves a great Deadwood day.
All right, folks, we're here in Deadwood, South Dakota. And Deadwood is originally started as a gold mining town. Once they got a population of around 5,000 miners, they created this town, which has saloons, brothels, gaming, you know what the miners like to do in the evenings when they got done mining. But the claim to fame of Deadwood is this guy right here, Wild Bill Hickock. He was only here for a few weeks when he was playing cards and somebody came in and shot him in the back of the head. So we're gonna actually walk the main street of Deadwood and show you what Deadwood was. Granted, people call this a tourist trap. I don't think so, because I think it still has a lot of history and how the old Wild West was. But we're gonna go in and learn a little bit about the history of Deadwood. This is my first time here. I don't know a whole lot about it. I was in Tombstone in February, loved it. So let's see how this is. No better way to welcome you to Deadwood than a horse and buggy ride. Up ahead, we'll be entering Main Street.
Now we're at the Welcome Center and we're going to check it out. Historic Main Street, Deadwood. Oh, wow. Very clean, very nice.
They do the double-decker bus, so we could sit on top, and then that's how they do like the history, the narrative history on that. You want to do that?
Yep.
So you have to go get your tickets. You want to do the double-decker one? That's
Yeah.
right here.
Okay.
This is where we're at. So just go follow this up Main Street. And you know what's it say for there next to 11 o'clock?
Well, I don't know if we'll meet the 11, because we kind of want to do our own thing and then maybe do it. So can we let's write the times down, please. That's got the times on it. Awesome. There, awesome. Thank you so much.
You want this map so you know where to go?
I already have one.
Okay.
Yeah, we already walked it the other day. So.
All right.
Thank you. Looks like it's mostly on the other end of the main strip to
What
catch
is?
the double-decker bus, which does a narrative tour through Deadwood. Lasts about an hour.
Okay.
And since it's a pretty day, I want to ride up top on the double-decker.
Well, alrighty then. Don't get.
And it's a Monday, and I don't think it's going to be that crowded, so.
You remember when she gets really excited, she clamps her hands like.
So we're getting close to Main Street. Let's go. There it goes. Horse and buggy. And here he is, the man that made Deadwood a popular place, Wild Bill Hickock. And that's actually a life-size statue. But right here it gives you information on who he is. He was born 1937 in Illinois. He died 1876, which made him only about 39 years old when he died, when he was shot playing cards. And the hand he was holding, which is called the dead man's hand because of this incident, was a pair of black aces and a pair of black eights. So should you have a hand like that, I would get rid of it real quick. But yeah, let's go say hello to Wild Bill Hickock. Hey buddy. We're here to learn a little bit about you.
Yeah.
In this place that was your demise. My apologies. But yeah, you were right. You shouldn't have your back to the door, and it got you. All right, we're gonna go check out where you were shot, okay? Enjoy your day and all the tourists that come by. Making our way to the Main Street, you'll pass this Dolls. It's actually chainsaw wood carvings. So all these carvings are made out of a chainsaw. Really good job. There's several places over here in the Black Hills that has the Dolls chainsaw carvings. Look at that chair. Isn't that a cool bench? And all throughout Deadwood, you're going to see these electrical boxes just covered. I think that is so neat. And there's Wild Bill Hickock. There's even a look, a wood carving of him. All right. See you up ahead. All right. Welcome to Deadwood. Wild Bill Hickock, my buddy, right here. Trolley rides. $2 a ride. So, you know, back in the day, brothels were super popular in Old West towns. And this one opened in 1876 and closed in 1980. 1980 wasn't too far along. You can actually go in here and do a tour. Must be 16 to enter. I get it. But yeah, it was closed by FBI and state agents. Wow. So yeah, they do tours in there. No cameras allowed. I'm not going to do the tour, but that's just an option of something to do here in Deadwood. Other side of the road. love the brick road. That's nice. Okay. Trading posts, souvenir shops, of course. Plenty of those. So here we are at the original location of Saloon Number 10, where Wild Bill Hickock was shot. And you can actually pay to go see where Wild Bill was shot. Sherry was sitting in and all that stuff. Let's venture in here. Look at the door handles. So we were in there talking to the lady that works in there, and she gave us a good little history on this place. But originally, when Deadwood was settled in around 1876, it was actually 10 to 14 feet below what we see today. And a lot of it has been ruined through floods and fires and stuff, because there was a gulch running through here, several different creeks. But so you're not allowed to take video cameras in there, so it can only show you the outside. But you can pay $10, and they have it set up in the vicinity where he was shot and killed. It's not really the actual spot, the actual chair. He wasn't even sitting in a chair, he was sitting on a bar stool. And behind this main street was actually Broadway Street, and that's where all the horses, the main road where they would carry, because you got a lot of divots and rough roads back then with all the flooding and everything going on.
About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wild Bill Hickock entered Saloon Number 10, seeking a little action.
How's that game going?
From Cheyenne. Carl Mann.
I'll be there in a second. I gotta get a break.
Captain from Missouri.
God, that whiskey, Gary. How you doing today? I'm fantastic. There. Oh, yeah. I don't think it'll slide down that far.
Wild Bill's reputation demanded that he be exceedingly cautious.
Yeah, that's good stuff,
he
Harry.
had to sit with his back to the door.
Yeah,
The
really
vacant
strong.
seat was so located, and a lively debate between Charlie Rich and Bill resulted in an attempt on
That's
Bill's
tough
part
stuff right
to
there.
get Charlie's
Thanks, I
chair.
think. Charlie, get out of my chair.
This is my lucky chair. There's a whole right there.
You know what? I don't care how lucky you think it is. You know, I said there, get out.
Grudgingly,
I'll
with
first,
great
sir.
hesitation, took the
I don't
empty
care
chair.
how long you've been there, Charlie. Get out of my chair.
And again,
My
asked
chair.
Charlie for his chair.
Dang it, Charlie, I can't sit here. You know it. Now get out of that chair now.
Back to the
I
door.
was here first.
Wariness, though, kept Bill
Fine.
alert.
Well, take your money and now take your chair, Charlie. What's the matter with this guy, Carl? Has he been that way all day?
Unpredictable as card games are, Bill found himself quickly losing to Massey, who lost to Bill the night before.
I need $15.
Bill
I
asked
need 15
Harry
from
for
Harry.
$15 worth of pocket checks. Harry brought them over to Bill and returned to the bar and his duties.
Thank you. Alright. You dealt my
Soon a
bet.
shifty drifter known as Jack McCall entered the saloon. Bill quickly turned while drawing his gun. Recognizing McCall as a newcomer to town, he greeted him with a friendly,
Howdy, Jack.
then reholstered his gun and resumed the game. Jack
That kid was
slowly
in here
circled
last
the
night
table,
playing. I
pausing
can't believe
briefly
he came
behind
back
each player
today.
and analyzing each hand.
What are you looking at? I don't need you lurking. Get out of here. Get. He lost $250 in here last night. He left
While
out
Bill's
mad.
attention was on Massey, there was a friendly argument
I
between
took
them.
my
And
share.
as
Everybody's
Bill
in?
remarked,
Yep.
Alright, give me 3 of them cards.
Not today. Not today.
Huh?
upon returning
What do you mean not
directly
today?
behind
Just not
Wild
today.
Bill,
Oh, give me
suddenly
tomorrow's
Jack
shot.
McCall
Come on. Fine.
the bullet struck Bill in the back
Take
of the
that,
head,
dang
coming out
you.
his left cheek and lodged in Captain Massey's left arm. It was discovered
Don't want any more
soon
trouble.
that the cards
Get
were
on out of
available
here,
were
kid.
aces
Now,
and eights,
get.
forever known as the Gambler's Hand. Everyone of the saloon except Carl Mann, who was held at bay by McCall. Jack snapped the trigger of his gun several times. It failed to fire. He then ran out the door and up the street. He was found hiding in a building behind a butcher shop. Later on in the day, he was tried in a minor's court. The jury, being tainted and influenced by a deceitful defense, found McCall not guilty, and he was released. This
Wild
decision
Bill's
not only
dead!
outraged the judge, but also the general populace. McCall left the camp in haste. Upon reaching supposed safety in Wyoming,
Wild
he
Bill's
began bragging
dead.
of his ignoble deed. Word of this reached a U.S. Marshal who tracked McCall down, arrested him, and sent him to Yankton to be tried again in Dakota territory. It was determined, since the first trial was held in Indian territory, that it was not legal. McCall was found guilty and hung for his cowardly crime. He was buried in an unmarked grave on the edge of town. Later,
But we'll continue on with Main Street. And right across the street over here is the Bullock Hotel. Seth Bullock was the one who's actually the very first sheriff of Deadwood. He was very good friends with Teddy Roosevelt. And they do ghost tours in here in this Bullock Hotel. She told us it was supposedly haunted by Seth Bullock's wife. She slams doors and makes all kinds of noise up there on the second floor. That was the Bullock Hotel. Continue on. So what is that? 1876 meets 1920? So I thought this was interesting. Here's two different pictures of Deadwood. This first one was in the late 1880s. When Deadwood was first getting established, and then this picture was taken in 1909, and you could just see how much it's grown. But right here is a train station, and if we look up right here, it's the exact same train station. Look at that growth, was huge. But people were going out west to strike it rich, and this was a gold mining city, and a lot of gold was found here. Let's walk over to the train station and check it out. Okay, we're at the train station, and here's an old-time scale, which we did this the other day, which was super cool. So, I know approximately my weight. 100 pounds right here, right? 100 and...
I think actually that's supposed to be, I would do this and then I'd...
No, that's right. This is 100 pounds, and then I'm normally about 130. You know, you're on vacation, you overeat, so.
So you say.
I had a couple, but here we go. I'm about 132. Approximately plus or minus 5 pounds.
I don't want to get on it because then I'm a little bit more than that.
There you go.
There you go.
We get off at just the cemetery, or we get off at several places?
So just the cemetery. Yep.
Bill, Larry, Jim, and
Next stop on that.
everybody wants to go up. It's a pretty day.
We come out here and it is confirmed there is gold down towards Custer. But then the exaggeration starts. Oh my goodness, there's so much gold you can kick it up with your boots and your boots are shiny. It's everywhere. You can just put your hands in the dirt, golden glove. It's everywhere. And it's exaggerated so much that by 1876, thousands of people descend onto Deadwood. Now that was to denote back in the day that this was the livery and stable, and this was the entrance where you were to bring your horse to be treated, shoot and things of that nature. This building is also, if you look compared to the other buildings, slightly different colored, and that's because this is one of the last sandstone structures built in Deadwood. Sandstone is very abundant here, but it is not weather resistant. Now about that horse head, I don't know, I have not confirmed, but the rumor has it that if you go on the other side of that building, you'll find the other end of that horse. So all of these buildings are going to be post 1879, because in 1879, right over here on this corner of Sherman Street, there was a bakery fire. That would be the Empire Bakery. So someone kicked over an oil lamp, it caught the bakery on fire and traveled next door to the hardware store that harbored the black powder. And everybody knows black powder and fire, boom, Camp Deadwood is buried for the first time. I'll have you look over here on your right, my left. This is going to be the Adams Museum right behind you. Mr. Adams was our first mayor, Mr. W.E. Adams, and he had an affinity for collecting Wild West memorabilia. So inside this is 3 stories of memorabilia and artifacts from here in Deadwood and around the Black Hills. The post office. This post office was built in 1903, but before that this was the Pony Express stand. Now the Pony Express was said to be able to get a letter from here to Laramie, Wyoming in under 2 days at a rate of 50 cents a letter. And that is about the same as the post office today, and just a little quicker. So, welcome to historic Main Street. So if you're interested in seeing them try Jack McCall for the murder of Bill Hickock, you can see that right here in this building on your right. So next we're going to peek over here as we come up Main Street on your left side. You're going to see these pillars coming up. These pillars coming up right here, this is the Franklin Hotel. In 1903, Mr. Franklin built this hotel, and this was what I call crowd-funded hotel. Mr. Franklin said, if you give me a donation, I'll match it, we'll get this built. And to the tune of $100,000, they got that built. Now when this was built, it was the epitome of luxury. It had a haberdashery or cigar stand. It had a masseuse. It had the shoe shiners, newspapers. It even had a telephone in every single room. Now, that was luxury in that time. Absolute luxury. The road right to the side of it here, you'll see, this road initially was meant to be called Cheyenne Street. And they say it's because miners had very bad spelling that it ended up being Shine Street, like shine like a diamond. But some of us from the South know that that could have just been a long draw. And it ended up Shine Street instead of Cheyenne Street. So if we take a look on our right here at this beautiful brick building with a sign that says Midnight Star. That building we called the Phoenix Building. It was the first building to rise out of the ashes of the 1879 fire. This building was once owned by Kevin Costner, but that is not its claim to fame. When this was built, it had a 3-story outhouse in the back. 3-story outhouse, guys, can you imagine that? Now, I don't know exactly how that worked, kind of like a corporate model, I guess. It all rolled downhill, but I'll tell you, it probably was worth getting the extra couple steps in. If we look on our left, we're going to see this plaque on it that says Scott Jacobs Studio. And if you look at the top of that building, it says Goldberg, 1876. Now this was Goldberg Grocery, and this also is the same place where Calamity Jane came for $7 and did not pay. She tried to pay it with a picture, they took her picture, but she still owed that $7. And she still does to this day, and you can see that ticket at the Adams Museum. This is also the location where they caught Jack McCall. We'll come back to him. These buildings on your right, these are going to be the oldest wooden buildings in Deadwood. They were built directly after the fire, and if you just take a peek back, you'll see they say 1879 up there at the top. Going back to our left side, you'll see this sign that has a buffalo on it. Now this is the Buffalo Bill Saloon, or the Buffalo Bodega, they call it. And this was a propriety. The proprietor's name was Mike Russell, and his good friend was Buffalo Bill Cody. And the reason this is called the Buffalo Bodega is because when Buffalo Bill Cody was in town, This was his favorite watering hole, and he'd come in here every time to get himself a drink. Going back to our right, and right next to this truck here, you're going to see saloon number 10. Now this is not the original saloon number 10. This is a replica of what they thought saloon number 10, where Wild Bill was shot, might look like. Now this building is pretty great 3 times a day, or 4 times a day, at 1, 3, 5, and 7 o'clock. You can watch them kill Wild Bill inside there, whether he needs it or not. This building is also the only museum in the world with a bar. All right. So Deadwood back in the 1870s didn't have a lot of law. We did end up with a lawman though. His name was Seth Bullock, and he came here the day before Wild Bill was shot. And Seth Bullock, on this spot where you see this beautiful hotel, the Seth Bullock Hotel, he had a hardware store. Solomon Star. They owned the hardware store. They had it right here on this spot. Later on, he went on to build this hotel. Now, he loved this hotel so much, they say he's still here. He roams the halls, and they use those tours. The street you see in front of us, we're going to be crossing right now. We are crossing the threshold into the Badlands. It was called the Badlands by Seth Bullock because down in here you could find any vice you wanted. From cards to ladies, to drinks, to opium. You could find it at this end of Deadwood. On our left, we have the original location of the saloon number 10 where Wild Bill was shot. Now this is not the original building. That building did burn down in the fire of 1879. But this is the approximate location. So this is where Jack McCall would have come out and run down to that black awning that we saw just a few minutes ago. Again, staying with our left side, coming up, you're going to see some green facing, and I want you to take a look up at that second story window. Give them a wave. Hello, ladies. That is our brothels. And back at that time, I'm sure they'd be looking down at you, hooting, hollering, come on in. Now, these brothels ran for 104 years. All the way until 1980. 1980, right? So in 1980, the federal government comes in and they shut this down, arresting 16 prostitutes and 4 madams. One of these madams was so mad, her name was Pam Holiday. She went on a Bill Donahue show. Said, that was bad for Deadwood. Y'all are messing up our revenue, okay? Well, they did come in and arrest those ladies, and they got charged with tax evasion. They were charitable ladies, though, and the revenue did go down after that. And after that arrest, they say hunting season was never the same. Now, right here we have another green facing. And if you look above that brown door, you'll see it says brothel tours. Each of these, there's 4 rooms, and they have all been renovated to different time periods during that 104 years. I think that would be pretty cool to look at. They're all, I haven't done it yet, but I do recommend it. So as we come around this corner, the first 3 houses, never mind that first one, just look at the second 2. And you'll notice that outside the porch, they look pretty well identical. And that's because back then, they made these called railroad cars. Now this would have been manufactured somewhere else, put on a railroad car, and brought right here and reassembled. They were usually bought from Sears and Roebuck. They were obviously well made because they are still standing over 100 years later. Beautiful. So this hill is in fact called Boot Hill, and there are many boot hills all over the United States. Most of them lead to a cemetery, and the reason is because they say pioneers, miners, and the like, especially gunslingers, they normally died with their boots still on, right? Meaning they did not die in their bed of old age. It was said when Deadwood was founded that Deadwood was so healthy they'd have to murder somebody to start a cemetery, and by golly, that's what happened. Now Mount Moriah is a public cemetery. However, there are no more burials in here. The only exception to that would be if your family still had a plot inside here, then they would find a spot for you. Now the last burial that was done here was in 2008, still relatively recently. beautiful. So beautiful. I got tired of seeing all the oil rigs and the cactus down there. So as we come up here, I'll remind you that we do a lot of historical preservation. So while you see these markers and headstones, a lot of times you'll see around them is a concrete retaining wall. And that is because up here, there is only about 3 to 6 inches of topsoil, and the rest is rock. So when these people were brought up here to be buried, they would dig out 3 to 6 inches of topsoil, and then a lot of times have to dynamite out the rock to bury people. So of course, with it being a living mountain, things move, and we are really trying to keep people in their place. I'm sure they're comfortable there by now and want to stay. And we've got 3 or 4 of them right here in this area. We're going to start with Mr. Bill Hickock. His headstone, this headstone right here, this is the 3rd headstone that they have had to put here. Now finally they got smart and put that in bronze, because before it was sandstone, and every time someone would come visit, they'd just get them a little piece and carry it home with them, until it almost was nothing left. And one of those headstones you can still see at the Adams Museum today. This is the 3rd. On the front of his headstone, you'll see a little sign there. It says, "Custer was lonely without him." So General Custer and Wild Bill Hickock, they were good friends. And when he died, they said Custer was kind of heartbroken a little bit. You know, they were pretty good buds. But he didn't have to miss him long, because 3 months later, Custer was killed as well at the Battle of Little Bighorn. So they didn't have to stay lonely very long. Now Wild Bill, he was known as Deadwood's cleanest man. Okay, he bathed daily, which in that time was unheard of. He was known to use lavender water to keep himself smelling real nice. He was also a striking feature. At that time, people were small. He was 6'2", okay? Very well kept, very well dressed, very well maintained, and never would he allow a set of holsters to sully his good looks. He wore himself a pretty red sash. And his 2 1851 Navy Colts right here, cross draw position. They said he was very deadly in that position. He was a shoot from the hip kind of person. Now, according to him, he killed about 100 men. Historians find it to be closer to probably 7. But Wild Bill, his family, they were smugglers for the Underground Railroad. So he was no stranger to gunplay. His first shootout with the law was at age 14. His father and him had a wagon. The law was chasing them, thinking that they had slaves, and of course they did. So they got into a gunfight. They did get away, but at that time he realized he really liked guns. So he did become a lawman and many things after that. He served as a spy master, wagon train master. He was really good at a lot of things, even sharpshooting. Now, he was famous long before he got here. Wild Bill was only famous for one thing in Deadwood, and that was dying. He died here. So he's our celebrity. Right above him, you'll see Calamity Jane. Now, everybody talks about Calamity Jane and what a hoot she was. And she would go in, shoot out chandeliers, and she would go from bar to bar and what they called howl. And when she'd get to howling, they'd send her to the next bar. They didn't want to hear it. Said she was Johnny on the spot when it came to a bottle. And they you know, a lot of that was embellished. Now, I'll tell you a different side to Miss Martha Jane Cannery. She was orphaned at the age of 12 years old and left to take care of her siblings. So at that time, she decided she would take any and every job that she could, whether it be a woman's job, and we know at that time the only woman's job was mostly prostitution. So she did a little bit of that, a little dance hall queening, you know. She also did things such as bullwhacker, trail master, things like this. Okay, so she was a very versatile woman. Now, what they don't tell you is Calamity Jane was immune to smallpox from an infection as a child, okay? So when the smallpox came to Deadwood, she was a nurse for these smallpox victims. She also brought the smallpox vaccine to Deadwood, staving off a further epidemic. That's the things they don't tell you about Calamity Jane. But they will tell you that she got her name because she was just one doggone Calamity Jane after another, everywhere she went. Now, they say these two had a relationship, and history has never proven that. It's more fantastical dime store novel type stuff. Calamity Jane did have one daughter though. She had a son who died in infancy, but she had a daughter, and she brought her daughter to Deadwood with her. Went to the bars and said, if you guys help me make this money to send her to the school in Sturgis, we'll get her gone. By the end of the night, she had that money. And then she said, rounds! And that money was gone. Okay? That daughter did end up in Sturgis in that school, and that's the last we know of her. But we do know Calamity Jane loved her, because towards the end of her life, she hired a ghostwriter to write her autobiography. And in that autobiography, she said something along the lines of, her daughter is her greatest joy. So we do know that even though she was not necessarily a hands-on mother, she did in fact love her child. Now, Mr. Johnny Parrott, Potato Creek Johnny. Now, he is a local celebrity. His claim to fame is he found the largest gold nugget in this area. Okay? That gold nugget is on display at the Adams Museum. You can see it, but he said, looked like the right leg of a woman, and he was going to spend the rest of his life trying to find the rest of her. Now, Potato Creek Johnny is what you think of when you think of the word prospector. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Doc. So John Parrott was 4'3", had a beard to his waist, and in his later years, of course, he looked much smaller because being bent over panning. And that's kind of who they modeled that after, you know, the little glasses on the tip of their nose. Well, history has it that he was a really good storyteller, so people would flock from the area to come into Deadwood to visit him, hear his stories. He just was a really good person and local celebrity. In fact, he was so much of a local celebrity that when he passed away at the age of 77, they tolled the bell at the Adams Museum 77 times in his honor. You can see him there's a picture on the back of the Adams Museum, and it has 4 pictures on it. It has Calamity Jane, Wild Bill, and I believe Dora Dufran, and John Parrott. You can see him there with his glasses and his long beard. He's a pretty cool gentleman. And as you're looking down over there, I'll have you kind of find the Franklin Hotel. You can see it with those nice pillars, and then we're just gonna follow it all the way up into the hill. Now, in the crack of that hill, way in the back, you see there's a hill. That last one back there, that dark one, that is Mount Roosevelt. It was named Mount Roosevelt by Seth Bullock because him and Teddy Roosevelt were very good friends. In fact, they founded Yosemite together. Now, on top of that hill, and you can trek up there, but it's kind of blocked by the trees now, is something called Friendship Tower. That tower was also built by Seth Bullock in honor of Teddy Roosevelt.
Here's a picture of Jack McCall, the man who shot Wild Bill Hickock. It says right here, the only known picture. And then there's the statue his second statue. It was made of sandstone and got vandalized at Mount Moriah Cemetery. It's his good friend. And there's the actual marker. But here is the very first statue of Wild Bill at Mount Moriah.
Alright folks, this concludes our tour of Deadwood. Had a really good time. While we were here, we actually did a game where in the visitor center, you walk around and you take 25 selfies of wherever you see anything and everything with a picture of Wild Bill Hickock on it. And I did 25. 1, a rug, posters in the wall, on a deck of cards, a bottle, alcohol, photos and that was at his memorial where he's buried, the visitor center. She said anything and everything where you see his picture. So I did it. It's just fairly easy. So my prize was this magnet, a sticker, this bag that hooks on, and inside the bag are gold coins, chocolate gold coins. So that's a pretty free gift just to go around and take selfies of you and Bill.
Yep.
I enjoyed it.
Pretty
Something
cool.
I haven't done before.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, Deadwood was a great place to visit. A lot of history here. Definitely learned a lot. But yeah. So a little bit off of Main Street is this first Deadwood gold discovery. So it's right here in this vicinity where the first gold was discovered in Deadwood. And according to the sign, gold deposits here were paying 20 to 4 cents to the pan, and the people that first found the gold built a cabin with that money. They left to prospect other areas and then returned early November in 1875. They staked out a discovery claim just east of the cabin, built in August at the mouth of the Spruce Gulch. By January 1st, 1876, 50 miners were working Deadwood Gulch with the average take at $10 per day. And on January 5th, the entire gulch was occupied by mining claims. Thus, the Deadwood Gold Rush began in 1875. And then the city of Deadwood was laid out by April 26, 1876. And because the great rush of miners into Deadwood came in the spring of 1876. By August, combined digging and building had produced a city resembling a heap of lemon boxes propped up on broomsticks. In the century since 1876, the Deadwood lead mining district has produced gold estimated at over $800 million. And here's a cute little statue. A little piece of gold between his fingers. So yeah, it was right in this area the first gold was discovered here in Deadwood.